I will hand it over to Niron for introductions. They've got a brief deck to walk through, introduce you to their company, and then I'll jump back up. Leslie.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everybody. Let me do a quick round of introductions here. Do we have a clicker, Ryan, for our deck? Perfect. Thank you. So let me quick start with Mark. We'll do some introductions, and we'll give you a little bit of intro of who Niron is.
As we talked earlier, Mark Stramick, I'm the Vice President for Government Affairs for Niron Magnetics. I'm a Minnesota native, and I say that actually I live out in Washington, D.C. I've been out there for almost 30 years now, but I fly back and forth here about twice a month here, it seems like it. Yeah, but really excited about the project we're going to be going forward with here.
Hi, I'm Pete Ladwig, the VP of Nanoparticle Technology. What is that? We'll tell you in the presentation. We'll tell you how we make our particles. I live in Hutchinson, Minnesota, so I have 3 kids in hockey, so I've been up to Sartell many times, love this community, and very excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dave Northall. I'm not from Minnesota. I came here about 2.5 years ago to join Niron and help make this exciting project viable. And to see where we've gone from making 3 grams at a time to where we're now having a facility that's going to be able to produce 1,500 tons a year is absolutely amazing and impossible to do without the support from yourselves and support from excellent people like Pete, Mark, and Leslie.
Great, thank you. I'm Leslie Hunter. I'm the Senior Director of Projects at Niron Magnetics. I'm actually a graduate of Black Duck High School, which is north of Bemidji. So I used to drive through St. Cloud Sartell all the time going to the cities back when I was a kid. So small town win is great from my heart as well. But we want to make sure that you guys kind of knew who Niron was, but I wanted to first pause and say that artwork that we got was just really fantastic. So just want to quick pause and say thank you. That is just fantastic. And the city of Sartell and the GSDC and everyone who helped get us here, the work and the effort and the dedication is outstanding. So thank you to everybody who did that. I just want to quick pause because it really can't be undersold. There was 75 communities, yes, but for sure Sartell stood out from day one. Just fantastic job. All right, so we think it's important for you to understand a little bit who Niron is as far as our vision and our values. So I want to start there just to ground you on who we are at our core. And that, I'm just going to read it to you verbatim. Our vision is to become the leading global supplier of powerful, rare earth-free permanent magnets, creating a secure and reliable supply chain for global electrification, all while protecting the environment. A lot of words, but we'll go into that a bit more when Pete talks about what we do. We skipped a slide there. So the mission, to manufacture and scale the strongest rare earth-free permanent magnets to power a clean and secure world. And the first value that we have is sustainability. We are a green company. Our core value is to be sustainably driven and partner with customers who use our products to change the world. In addition, we have a real team focus. We are an empowered team committed to our health and safety. We trust, respect, and challenge each other. If you've hung out with Dave or Mark or I, you'll see that quite often. We challenge each other all the time. Innovation, we are a learning organization and love a challenge. We innovate, solve problems, and we push boundaries. It's healthy to do so. And for results, we deliver results. To achieve the extraordinary, we commit to top quality work every single day. We work hard and we make sure we do it in a great way. As for how we were born, this is kind of an interesting story. So back in 2010, there was a fishing boat from Japan fishing in Chinese waters. Seems pretty innocuous. However, China didn't... Oh, sorry, I said it backwards. So they got upset because they didn't want to have... wasn't it Japanese, though? Because China got mad. Anyway, we learned at this point that China controlled all of the world's magnets, which isn't a good thing. We want to make sure that we have our own access to magnets because, as you'll also see in a few slides, magnets are everywhere. And basically, your cell phone, you have 18 magnets if you have 3 cameras. For our defense systems, we need magnets. So ARPA-E decided that we needed to fix that. So they put out some research dollars to several universities across the country to try to figure out how we could solve this crisis. At the end of a few cycles, they found that the University of Minnesota had the best viable product. So they put all of their focus into that product. And they then got some investors on board to make sure that we could help get that off the ground and into market. And then Niron, I'm simplifying a bit, summarizing for the sake of time, but Niron was born, and now we are creating our first rare earth magnet and bringing that into our first plant production. And then I'll hand it over to Pleat to talk more about how magnets are made. Get your hands full. Okay.
All right, next slide, please. All right, so what is this stuff? So to make a great magnet, you need a magnetic element, that's iron. And so a lot of magnets use iron, but today's best magnets also use neodymium, dysprosium. We'll hear a little bit about that. It's really damaging for the environment. So we're able to make the world's most powerful magnet, the most magnetic material known, which has actually been around for about 50 years in theory. People have hypothesized if you can make this stuff, it would be a really great magnet. No one has figured out how to do that until Niron came along. We figured out how to make that in bulk. So what is it? It's this alpha double prime 16,2 iron nitride. That sounds really fancy. That's a name us material scientists give it to ensure we have jobs. But really what it is, it's just iron. It's 16 iron atoms with 2 nitrogen atoms. Iron being one of the most plentiful materials in the Earth's crust. You have thousands of pounds of iron in every one of your vehicles. Nitrogen is the most plentiful element in the air. You're breathing 75% roughly nitrogen with every breath that you take. So why is this so special? Think of it's the crystal structure. If you think of carbon, carbon is the lead in your pencil. It's not actually lead, it's actually graphite, and it's mainly carbon. But then you also have diamond. Diamond is also just carbon. So it's this particular crystal structure of alpha double prime iron nitride that we've figured out how to make in bulk. And we can make that with, 100% free of rare earths with domestically sourced materials. So we're very proud of that. Next slide. So how do we make this stuff? So we start out with iron and we make highly engineered rust. We make gamma maghamite technically, but it's really rust, the same stuff that is unfortunately forms on our vehicles up here in winter, particularly with a lot of the salt on the roads, which we'll get to. But we start out with iron nanoparticles, and they have to be just right, just the right size, and we figured out how to make those. We take the oxygen out and we put nitrogen in, and that creates this material, this alpha double prime iron nitride material. And it's probably hard to see, but I'll let you play with this after the presentation. You can see how magnetic this material is. And so the main inputs are an iron, which is a purchased material from scrap iron, and then we use hydrogen, which gets consumed in the process and recycled. So what comes out is water vapor. And then the next part where we put nitrogen in, we use ammonia. Ammonia is sprayed on fields out here in vast quantities, right? Far larger than we will ever use. Most of that is consumed in the process and recycled, and there's very little ammonia that's emitted, negligible compared to what is used in the surrounding community. And then finally, with the material, the wastewater that comes out is a clear material, brine or sodium chloride, table salt, right? The same stuff you put on your steak and the same stuff that is sprayed on the roads out here in winter. So those are the main byproducts coming out of this process. So we're really proud of not only the material that we make, but also how we make it.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about how we've got to where we are in our partnerships. Our partnerships really cross the boundaries between industry, academia, and federal government. So on the far left-hand side here, local investments. As Leslie indicated, we are actually a rollout of the University of Minnesota. We started with the university back in 2013. What's unique about this, we have partnerships still with the University of Minnesota Regents who have invested with the company since the very beginning. We also have investors from the Meadowalk and Sioux community, or the Shakopee tribe. They're actually one of the largest private investors in the company who have invested in a lot of green tech businesses across the state of Minnesota. And then MISCO. MISCO is actually one of the largest and oldest manufacturers of speakers in the United States. On the government side, on the Department of Energy side, we talked about ARPA-E. The ARPA-E is the Advanced Research Program Agency for Energy. They do all the special projects. They're starting to look at how you can do new innovative technology areas. They funded us back in 2013, and they also funded us here in 2022 for a grant project to actually build a pilot facility in Northeast Minneapolis. In fact, we're doing our ribbon cutting for that facility here on Thursday of this week. That's a 70,000 square foot facility that serves as our corporate headquarters, as well as our research and engineering, as well as our largest magnetics laboratory in the world. Ames Laboratory out of Iowa. Ames Laboratory is part of the Department of Energy. They are the top laboratory in the United States that actually looks at magnetic technology. On the commercial side, we have partnership agreements already in place, and when I say partnership agreements, investing in the company. Samsung, General Motors, Volvo, Stellantis, names you all know, have invested in the company because they're looking at how they can reduce their supply chain challenges. How do they reduce their reliance on China and foreign adversaries for where they have to basically get the permanent magnets today? And then looking at the private capital, Anzu, Artem, and Volta are all three private capital funded venture fund companies who have supported us since the very beginning as well. Next slide. Who is this clip? All right, so let's talk a little bit more about us as a company. Green tech is very important to us, and that's what Leslie talked about. In 2023, we were actually recognized by Time Magazine as one of the top green tech businesses in the United States. Most recently, we were actually identified by Time again as number 26 out of 4,500 companies across, number 22, excuse me, 22. It says out of 250, but it was actually 4,500 companies across the U.S. that they evaluated for top green tech businesses. And then we were also on the cover of Fast Company here just recently in this for our green tech climate change programs. We were on the cover of Forbes magazine in May of last year as well, and just really a lot of incentives to looking at how we are looking to change the environmental impacts. Go ahead, next slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if any of you drove here this morning, but if you didn't have magnets in your cars, you wouldn't be driving. You'd be standing at the front of your car with a crank and winding it up in the same way that Ford did many, many years ago with the Model T. If you listened to any music this morning, you wouldn't have been listening to any music if there wasn't for magnets, right? I wouldn't be talking to you on this. You wouldn't have power in the lights, anything. The magnets are the unsung heroes. Somebody approached me 2.5 years ago when I was working somewhere, building very big plants for other things, and said, would you like to come and build a plant for making magnets? I had no idea how important magnets were. Now I'm a huge advocate of magnets. I love them. And we're not talking about fridge magnets. We're talking about magnets that are so strong that if you put them together, you will not be able to pull them apart. They're very, very powerful magnets. So as you see on here, there's a small use inside your mobile phones, from the camera system, the recharging systems, the vibrating systems that go on inside the phone. Not an awful lot, but there's a lot of them that are sold. In wind turbines, generation of power. Anywhere where you're generating power, you have magnets. So wind turbines are a huge user of magnets. In your cars, the F-35s, the latest generation of fighter jets last year, were all grounded. And they were grounded because they had Chinese magnets in them. They had to be changed out. And then all of these small tools, these little tools that you use these days, you don't have to plug into the walls anymore. Those mobile tools, the magnets that we produce are lighter and more powerful. So it means that the battery packs on them ultimately will be smaller, or the battery packs will last longer in them because the magnets are that much more effective. And then speaker systems. Again, if you like music, you need magnets. In a car, not looking at the electrification from the powertrain for it, but just the motors in a car. The starting motor, the windscreen wipers, the air conditioning units, the seat motors, the window motors, the wipers at the back of the car. There's lots of them all over the place. Next one. And then a little bit of a talk. I think Leslie's going to pick it up and talk a little bit about the supply.
Sure, I can. All right, so we're talking about the surplus and shortfall of what we're looking at for magnets. I think this first graph here tells a huge story, right? So right now in 2024, we have an 8 kiloton surplus. We're doing okay. But as you look, as we're projecting out to 2035, we have a 206 kiloton shortfall, which is huge. We need to be able to help fill that market need. That middle picture there is actually a color photo. That is how they process and mine rare earth magnets in China, or in areas that China controls. 1 kilogram creates over 2,000 kilograms of waste. So a very, very dirty and unclean process for our current magnets that we have today. And as we mentioned earlier, China's monopoly is real. It controls 90% of the world's global supply of magnets. I think we talked a little bit about this as well, as far as how we are green, and Pete touched on it. I know we're a little short on time, so I'm just going to let you review this slide. But overall, we just want to reemphasize the fact that we have the clean earth magnet. We have clean water, clean air, healthy communities, abated emissions. And if you look at the green bar there, that's how we help to fix the problems that the rare earth magnets have been creating. When we look at the only company identified in the U.S. security assessment, I think the story is yesterday you said that we did not solicit this. Is that the right wording, government official? This was just, we found this on the web. Maybe you can do this part. This is better for government relations to talk about.
So in 2002, the U.S. Department of Commerce actually did a study looking at the U.S. supply chain for rare earth permanent magnets. Now, as Leslie indicated, China controls the marketplace today. The U.S. today currently does not produce any permanent magnets. The entire enterprise went overseas back in the 1990s. What's interesting here, though, is the U.S. Department of Defense is investing very heavily on bringing rare earth permanent magnet manufacturing back to the U.S. There's 3 companies who are standing up 2 facilities in Texas, 1 in South Carolina. They will basically support about 5% of the total market for the U.S., which is very small. Globally, it's less than 1% of the global market. And what we are looking at here today is, in the U.S. Department of Commerce study, we were identified as the only alternative available today. And so we're very proud of just how that technology is really maturing itself. And then what was on the previous slide, I just want to emphasize here, the study that was done there that showed the environmental cost savings, that was done by Purdue University. A professor who actually worked in the mining industry looked at what are the pathways for traditional rare earth mining and magnet manufacturing versus Niron Magnetics clean earth magnets. We are on average between a 75 and a 95% environmental cost savings. What's important here too is we are a derivative of iron, okay? I will never be 100% clean. I'm just gonna be candid with you. But in our manufacturing processes, we are making sure that we're putting steps in place that we are recycling and limiting any kind of environmental hazards that come out of the manufacturing plant. And that's one of our key priorities for the company. Go ahead and next chart. So let me just talk a little bit while I'm up here also about our plan to build our 3 facilities that we're looking at today. First is our commercial pilot facility. Again, this is the facility we're building in Northeast Minneapolis that we're building in partnership with the U.S. Department of Energy, ARPA-E. Right now, this is a facility we'll build up to 10 tons per year. And again, right now this is a fully funded project. We've got approximately 91 full-time employees. We are planning to beef that up to about 105 by the end of this year. You can see our average employee salary is about $135,000, so very good paying jobs. For the first manufacturing plant, our goal here is to break ground in mid-2025 on this plant here in Sartell. It'll be a 1-year build. We are envisioning 175 full-time employees going into that facility. We are going to basically build the entire facility, but we're going to stage our growth plan. And basically, we're going to bring in 100 tons, 500 tons, and then bring an additional 1,000 tons over an 18-month cycle. So by late 2027, we'll be fully up and operational, is the plan for that facility. Now, what's also important here is we are planning to use union labor for building that facility. We're envisioning about 165 union laborers who will be supporting the facility build over that 18-month cycle period of time too. We're already talking with the Minnesota AFL-CIO about partnerships that will basically put us in place on how we would unionize for the construction work on that facility, which is very important to us as well. Finally is our high volume manufacturing. We kicked off late last year a nationwide site selection on where we would build a high volume manufacturing facility. High volume manufacturing is a 10,000 ton facility. It's about a $700 million infrastructure build and brings about 700 full-time jobs. What's very unique about the Sartell location is it could provide us opportunities to expand our footprint, going beyond 1,500 tons to what could be a 3,000 ton or a 5,000 or even a 10,000 ton facility on one solid footprint and bringing additional jobs to the community here. We're very excited about the partnership with the community and looking at how we can actually build and become good corporate partners as well as investors in your community as a whole.
I think think one thing that's worth saying is this is not going to look like a chemical plant or anything like that. It's a high-tech facility. We have a lot of high technology going in there. We are currently based in the middle of Minneapolis, and we're using exactly the same unit operations in that facility as we will be using in Sartell. And the final stage of the equipment is exactly the same size as what we'll be using here. It is not noisy, it is not smelly.
And I just want to count, we didn't talk about this, but it was up when Mayor took over or gave it to us. This is just a rendering. We did it for one of our locations that we would have had to create one congruent building in one of the metro areas. We're envisioning we may have to have several separate buildings, but it will still look clean. That's kind of the point of showing this rendering. It's one of many options that we could come up with at the end of our engineering design. He's going to look much better than this if you couldn't hear what he said. So that's it for us, Mayor. Thank you so much.